GBPUSD is testing a critical area that I mentioned last week, so I'll have all the details in today's video on where this market could be headed this week, and also the latest on the DXY, because that market is also testing a key level that we discussed over the weekend. Now, before we get started, if you want my help with your trading, including seeing my trades live, daily setups, including market updates throughout the day, at least 5 to 10 throughout the day in Discord, and also full access to the course, as well as VIP-only videos that take place in Discord, be sure to check out the link in the description of this video for 85% off lifetime access. Or if you're on the website, click on that Join VIP link. All right, guys, so looking at the pound GBPUSD daily time frame, what we've discussed recently in these videos is the fact that this market did recently fall below its 2025 trend line. So you can see that going back here to the 2025 low, we have this trend line here that has several touches down here in this area. Now, last week on Monday, we did see the pound close below this and retested several times last week. However, one thing I talked about in the weekly forecast here, if you look at the 4-hour time frame, this is how clean the level is. You can see here that this was the retest as support. We had the breakdown last week. We had retest as resistance, retest here, retest again today. Now, what I talked about over the weekend in the forecast video was the fact that we had this area up here to be aware of this week, and that this back here is what's called a poor high or an unfinished auction in the market. And typically you see highs like this here taken out by a market, and that's exactly what we saw here recently, just about an hour before I made this video. So right now, guys, we have the pound coming up here in this area that we discussed over the weekend, and we also have that single print or imbalance up there around 135.25. So a lot of times these areas serve as magnets, so to speak, for a market, just because they represent an area that was very thinly traded on the way down. You can see here that we had the market ranging back here. We had an expansion out of this range, and we never saw the pound come up here and quite test that level again. So 135.25, guys, is going to be a critical area, also resistance here for the pound. Obviously, that is just below that 2025 trend line as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, is that, a couple things actually. So on the daily time frame, guys, this level, even though 135.25 is a level in focus, that is that imbalance from this move lower from this candle. This level here, guys, is going to be resistance. You can see it lines up with this low back here. However, on the daily chart, you can also see where we have several lower wicks back here in this area to the point where this could technically be a little bit higher. Okay, so if we start here at this area, this is going to be the start of resistance. I mean, technically, really, the level the market just tested here at this 2025 trend line is really the start of this resistance area. But you can see where this area could technically be as high as these lows back here, right? So that's something to be aware of, especially as we come up on those PMI numbers out of Europe this week, just because we could get some volatility here in this area from the pound, to the point where what I'm not saying is, and I want to be clear about this, even though this is resistance, guys, what I'm not saying here is that the market will reverse exactly from this area. Now, one thing though, if we look at the DXY, one thing that could tell us that this is more of an exact level here for the pound is the fact that we have the DXY coming down here into 97.70 again. So this is obviously, guys, that long running trend line that we talked about, or horizontal level, also a diagonal here from the level back here in 2011. So going to the monthly time frame, moving all the way out here. I'm moving through this quickly, guys, because we've discussed it several times in the past. But you can see that off of this level down here, 2011, these lows through here, we saw June close below it. July is right there at that level. Now, it has been trading above it on the weekly. However, what's going to be key for the DXY is going to be the July close, which obviously we still have some time left before that happens. So that's going to be critical, guys. Right now, we have the market, yes, it's above this area. However, at the same time, the high time frames are still showing the DXY below 97.70. And this is why I've told VIP members in Discord to be really careful just assuming that the US dollar is going to bounce from here. Okay. Furthermore, this move lower today so far is very aggressive. But one thing though, when you're trading the pound and the euro here, if we look at the 4-hour time frame, these imbalances back here, these single prints that we talked about over the weekend, extending down toward about 97.50, these are still open for business, so to speak. Okay. So these areas down here, this is still open for business. We have this low back here, which was just tested. And that's why we're seeing the dollar bounce a little bit here, but not very much. It has been, again, a very aggressive move lower so far today. So you've got to be really careful here, assuming that this area is going to hold up, okay? If you're going to trade the dollar and look for buy signals here, in my opinion, never financial advice, but what you would be looking for is for the market to come down here, clean up these single prints down here, these imbalances in this area. And then from there, guys, what's going to be critical is to see the market get back above 97.7, okay? Whether it's an hourly time frame, 4-hour, daily, whatever it might be, you want to see the market come down here, take out this area, and then reclaim this on an hourly and 4-hour basis, okay? If we do not get that, if we get the DXY coming down here and taking out this area and closing a day below here, guys, that is going to look bearish for the US dollar. Okay, same thing can be said when we look at the pound here, that if the market were to close a day back above that 2025 trend line up here, right, that would start to look more bullish for the pound back there towards some of those key levels. Okay, so the bottom line here, guys, I keep telling VIP members, but in these environments, you've got to be really, really flexible with these markets, simply because we have the euro holding above that 115 area we've talked about going back 40 years using a pre-euro basket of currencies. And we also have the DXY, as I said, if you look at the monthly, right, technically this market is holding below this area on a monthly closing basis. However, at the same time, if you look at the weekly, it's holding above it, right? And so you've got this kind of push and pull environment where the market's trying to figure itself out right now. And so therefore you have to be really flexible and just trade what's on the chart, guys. Don't get stuck thinking that you know what's going to happen next or assuming something. Like I said, this is going to be support down here for the DXY. However, if we see these areas, cleaned up, tagged over the coming 24 hours, let's say, then you really need to see buyers step in immediately and recover back above here. If you don't get that, then things start to look a little bit more bearish for the US dollar. Okay, so given the fact, guys, that it is Monday, it's very early in the week, and markets are still pretty indecisive, even though we are seeing the market move lower, it's probably best, in my opinion, just to kind of stand aside, watch to see what we get down here, see if we get the sweep of these areas, and then what happens at 97.7. Now, with that said, though, I did mention to VIP members earlier this morning, and this is the benefit, again, of being in that Discord group, is this breakdown right here from the DXY. Okay, so when the market was breaking down through here, I mentioned that we were getting the break of that trend line, and we could be getting that push down there toward 97.7, potentially those imbalances around 97.50. Okay, so again, benefit of being a VIP that, you could have caught this move down here toward this area, but again, was that tradable? In my opinion, it would have been difficult just because we are very early in the week. Okay, so that is it for today's video, guys. Just keep in mind that this area is going to be resistance here for the pound up toward 35.25, maybe even just above that toward these lows back here. So this is going to be resistance until proven otherwise. Like I said, though, if we do get a high time frame close back above here, that would start to look a little bit more bullish for the pound and bearish for the US dollar if it loses that 97.70 level. I hope today's video has helped. If it has, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click that like button, and also join us in VIP. Check out the link in the description below for 85% off lifetime access, or if you're on the website, click on that join VIP link. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.